Barry from ASOS, and Barry's going to sort of give an introduction to what we're going to talk about today.
Cool, thank you. No, it's fine, I can speak. So thanks for having us today. Oh, I don't know what's happening. So we're just going to give a brief, basically we're tasked with sort of coming in and have a little chat to you, and the way that we're going to talk about the role of social media in the fashion industry today. Zeba's here, who's our head of fashion, and we're just going to have a little look back, really, sort of like set the scene of 10 years ago and what was happening in the world 10 years ago. So if you think back to 2005, look at the biggest selling handset at the time, it was a Nokia 1010, which is, if you look at it, obviously great for connected web, it was great for looking at pictures, obviously not. YouTube just got launched in November 2005. And looking at Google and looking at Yahoo in terms of like their searches, Paris Hilton was the most searched person on the web 10 years ago. Looking back at the fashion world in particular, these are sort of the two standout moments that people, if you look back, that everyone was a bit shocked and a bit surprised about. The first was the launch of Grazia, where everyone thought, there's no way that a sort of luxury fashion title is going to succeed in a weekly market. There's just no chance of that going to happen. You know, luxury fashion is not going to work unless it's in a luxury monthly fashion title. There's no way that them luxury fashion brands are going to get used to consumers looking at their content on a weekly basis. And also what was, you know, probably a big shock to everyone was that Stella McCartney designed to do a range for H&M. So again, it was a bit, everyone was a bit like this, you know, luxury, high street, that shouldn't be happening. Basically, we need to make sure that, you know, that's a bit strange, why is it happening, what does that mean for the world of fashion? And so these are like two big moments back in 2005. And then looking back in terms of the actual retail industry and looking back at fashion, obviously bricks and mortar, you know, ruled retail. ASOS had been going for about 5 years, and I think we were selling 500 items on site, and one of the biggest sellers was still sort of, for about 3 years before that, was a pestle and mortar that featured on Jamie Oliver when we were called as seen on screen. Net-a-Porter had been going as well for about 4 years, but actually it still hadn't broke a profit, it was losing loads of money. People were going to say, look, e-commerce and fashion, it's not really going to work out, it's not really going to happen. So I just wanted to set the scene and basically flash forward now 10 years, and Zeba's just going to talk a bit more now about how social media has transformed the industry and the changes that have been come into place.
I'm going to put my mic on.
Go.
Hello. I've been told to stand very still. Is that right? Someone help me. How about now? Can you hear me? Is that better? Yeah. Okay, so as Belle said, my name's Zeba, I'm the head of fashion at ASOS. I've been at ASOS for 6 years. That basically makes me a dinosaur there. Obviously, as we were talking about, kind of like when we first started, the first few years was about as seen on the screen, and that was a big push for us. And it feels like a distant memory now, and really where we're at now is much more about our community and our sort of social audience, and that's really what drives a lot of kind of like who we are, who are our customers, and our kind of like decision making really. So I don't want to talk about ASOS too much. So what I thought would be really nice to talk about is a little bit around Generation Instagram, but also specifically how it's affected this season more than any season in terms of fashion, and also I suppose democratise fashion in no other way that we've seen until now. And what we really kind of seen is that popularity is power in the world of fashion, and I know that's kind of like it's been a popular sort of theme, like building up, but specifically in terms of luxury fashion and the fashion industry and more than ever, that's what's happening now. Can you still hear me? Great. So some of the terms now that are kind of like all around the fashion world, and it's just like everywhere in terms of like Insta fashion, Instagram, Instacredible, Instagram, and I think, you know, associating those kind of like quite sort of fashion terms with the kind of Instagram world is what we're used to doing. And specifically this season, we saw Instagram transform Fashion Week communication like basically forever. So we have seen a lot of things around like designers doing kind of like behind the scenes and shows. So Burberry, for example, Burberry were one of the first designers to stream their shows before it went out. Actually stream their shows live, and then more recently they've been streaming their shows before it actually hit the catwalk. So it's kind of like this idea about democratizing it to the masses. So essentially, if you follow their social media feed, you will see the shows before the editors and the opinion folks as well. So it's sort of about how they're sort of like questioning how important and authoritative those editors are. It's kind of going to leave me redundant probably quite soon, but anyway, never mind. That's what I just talked about, and a little bit of a kind of thing to Kendall Jenner, which is, I'll come on to that a little bit more. As a result, New York Fashion Week and London, Paris and Milan collections were the most commercial, wearable, accessible and translatable in memory. So gone are the days of like really wacky, over-the-top fashion kind of pieces, and just never wear, like more than ever. Those really iconic designers are doing more commercial collections than you've ever seen, because they recognise that actually what's important is just to create pieces that your everyday girl boy will want to wear. And that's like Louis Vuitton, for example, if you're a fashion follower. If you look at their collections now in comparison to 2 or 3 years ago, you kind of like take away the kind of label, you would think it's Topshop. It's that kind of like translatable now. Clothes are clothes again, which is like a really wanky saying that hopefully kind of gets across. An example of that, and how this kind of works in terms of like democratising and using sort of celebrity, and that's why I was kind of talking about Kendall there. Louis Vuitton, Balmain and Givenchy pay Kimye and A-listers over £100,000 for them to appear on their photos. So this kind of like really pushes that thing around like popularity is power. And essentially it is more important to have those people in your front rows than any editor right now. I'll talk a little bit more about how that sort of like means in terms of numbers, but that's what they're really pushing there and putting their money behind. So it's not about making sure that they're featured in Vogue and that advertising around that. It's about who do they get in their front row during Fashion Week that they know is basically going to reach a mass audience. Just talking about that though, I just want to talk a little bit about the where the culture of luxe doesn't translate to success. So I would be, even if you don't follow fashion, I would be very surprised if none of you have heard about the Kanye West and Adidas Originals collection. Does everyone kind of hear about it? Yeah. And you know, and that's like amazing. Making some fashion really accessible to the masses and really kind of like inclusive and all that kind of things. But and in terms of like the likes, that's 4,778, but 578 of 461, in case none of you can read numbers. Page views, and you know, in terms of style.com, so that was like the biggest show to be looked at on style.com, which is brilliant. But the reality is, it's a pretty shit show. Like, no one actually who has sort of like fashion credibility would want to wear that collection, would feature it in their kind of like editorials, or it's kind of a bit naff, to be honest. So it's sort of like, there's this sort of like challenge across this thing about brilliant that we're making it, really democratising it, and that's fantastic. But actually, let's just be careful that we're not just sort of letting perhaps Kanye and people who don't have the right sort of background and lead our sort of fashion way in the future. I feel a bit bad. I mean, some of you might wear some of this stuff, but please say no. Okay, so talking about the front rows, so it's by Kate Moss on the front. Fame today means nothing without your Instagram followers. So hello Instagirls and new power row. So here we have the lovely Stefan Green and his gaggle of girls around them, and combined they have a following of 44 million, which is an incredible number. And you know, in terms of their sort of like popularity, being seen on the throne rather than on the catwalk is so much more powerful. And you know, in terms of someone like Cara, for example, I'm not going to talk about ASOS too much, but it's a really great example about her popularity in terms of her social following when she worked at ASOS. So I don't know if you know, she was like an ASOS top seller for a few years. She had this massive following, and that's what made all those sort of like high-end brands become quite interested in her, because they knew that actually utilising her would actually be a great vehicle in terms of like democratising their kind of fashion, but just getting their kind of brand label out there. So that's part of kind of like just like we made Cara. And then things like Cake, which has 41 million followers, so just a bit of fun thing about the fact that they basically look the same, which is really weird, except one of them has slightly thinner eyebrows. But obviously hashtag Cake is like a massive thing, and it again talks about all those super followers. So that leads on to this idea around luxury brands now need help from those with huge followings. So that sort of person power beats that brand power. So Kendall Jenner, a year ago, or a year and a half ago, she was just one of the girls that was in Kardashians. She was the little sister, was kind of pretty, probably modelled a little bit. That's pretty much all you knew about her, and that's all she was kind of like known for. But she had this, I think she's got a 20 million following, and what we kind of realised really early on is actually the power of her is so crucial that she is now, I'd probably say, one of the biggest models out there, and every brand wants to work with her. So from going from like your Kate Moss, which was all about sort of her as an individual credibility, it's not about anymore, it's about how many followers you have. She is beautiful, so it's kind of like not the worst thing to make her like your brand ambassador. So Jenna is the ultimate Insta girl, and we are excited to leverage her image, voice, energy. Please imagine this in an American voice. Extraordinary social media power to introduce Estée Lauder to millions of young people around the world. And Estée Lauder is a great example of like a very established brand until now. We've worked with the likes of Giselle and people like that to fund their brand, but making a very conscious decision to go elsewhere. In March 2015, Kendall Jenner was announced as the new face of Calvin Klein's line, Calvin's and the denim series. And again, just talking about, I keep harping on about it, the cast of a digital connected model such as Jenner can reach 30 million people. A feature ad in the issue of US Vogue will reach just 1.2 million. So kind of really interesting. Poor Cara has only got 10 million in comparison, but again, just talking about her. Maybe it's because she does things like this. I also was thinking on the way here, I was like, oh, I really wish I'd put a slide in about like Caitlyn Jenner and what's going to happen with her, and maybe she will be like the face of like Estée Lauder next year, who knows? Obviously, she's doing really well. What that kind of by default means in terms of like this idea around models is that we're also looking at kind of how, or the industry is also looking at how they recruit models via social media. So IMG Models has just launched We Love Your Jeans, and it's about kind of like scouting new faces via social media. So you hashtag a picture, and again, how that kind of is a good vehicle to kind of finding new faces. So this amazing 15-year-old girl called Andrea West from South Africa was the first girl to be signed with MG through an account initiative, sorry, I can say that then. And this beautiful 17-year-old Hawaiian super baby. Sorry, it feels like all I'm doing is like next to her boobs right now. So anyway, amazing body, and she is tipped to be like the next Victoria's Secret girl. Obviously, she was great at bikini, so no surprises there. And it also, you know, Instagram allows us to see the potential models' natural beauty in their everyday lives. They can come directly to us with simple smartphone snapshots and a lot of enthusiasm. So that's kind of Jenny Rose, VP of Scouting for IMG. So in that way. Mark by Marc Jacobs, which is sadly finishing the season, but they used Instagram to cast their sort of faces for their campaign, which is a massive thing. Like, you would never have done that, which is like such a high risk. So the fact that this incredibly big, established brand is doing that is really, really interesting, and just shows how it's all going. I put this in here because I thought it was really funny, about Kevin Systrom, who is the founder and CEO of Instagram. I feel like maybe you guys know Kevin, and he he was like all over the place during the Paris Fashion Week, which is kind of like a really interesting thing because it's such an elite group and all the editors hang out, especially Carl, he's Mr. Elitist, even though he used to be really fat and unpopular, and now he's skinny, he's really Mr. Elitist. Anyway, that's a side note. But he was mingling with everyone, super popular, and I think it just shows like where the fashion industry is going and how reliant they are on social media, especially Instagram. And then I was just going to do a really quick thing about how the top luxury brands are now using Instagram for more than backstage action, which I picked up on earlier. So they push subliminal messages on their feeds, highlighting the newest products and popular lines, and traditional marketing budgets are transferred into content production. So a little bit of a roundup for all the girls in here, which are older than 15, get a bit of insight into what you'll be wearing. Things like, so for example, like Louis Vuitton, they're using their channels to actually really like hero product and hero pieces. So Louis Vuitton, 4.4 million followers, sort of a trunk case, ladylike shoes, and leather jackets. Ladylike shoes are really coming back, so you will be wearing like, basically you'll be wearing the Granny's wardrobe for like block heel ladylike shoes if you're into that kind of thing. And Dolce & Gabbana, 3.6 million followers. Again, sort of key pieces, but you can see that they're not really using it to sort of in the same way about sort of like behind the scenes, etc. The access is there already. It's really about sort of using it to like nail some of these like key messages and push their product. Gucci the same. I think I got over excited for loads of slides. Maybe it's because of my personal like, what am I going to be wearing next season? And again with Dior and Burberry. And then what's next? So, you know, I've just realised there's no slides after this, so I'll just try. What's next? I think what's interesting for us, especially at ASOS, is that we recognise that utilising Instagram, rather than just like sharing experiences and things like that, but utilising that as a platform for them to have conversations around fashion is what we need to do. So we need to be exactly the platform for them to talk about fashion and share their ideas. So we just launched a thing called As Seen on Me. It's basically like you hashtag and you use that kind of like you wearing ASOS and you like it sits within a kind of like area on the side and on your social feeds. And basically it's a vehicle just to kind of share styling ideas and stuff like that. And you know, we truly believe that really going forward we really need to focus on that community and we need to ensure that we get like passing out really useful ideas and inspiration around fashion. It's really about letting them control that conversation and how we curate it. And just basically like being their cool friends because you know that's what they look for and using Instagram to do it. That's pretty much it. I feel like I should have maybe spoken about ASOS a bit more, but love ASOS, so very much.
Do you think some of these sort of high-end fashion brands might actually in the next kind of decade cease to exist because they're sort of built on exclusivity and being, you know, a high price point and the things that kind of drove their brands? Do you think the sort of trend is that?
While there's like rich Russian women out there, no, because they love it. But I do think it is definitely an insight into what's happening. I do think it's like, you know, your really high-end designers, like Louis Vuitton, for example, you know, the fact that they are producing collections that could be on Topshop or in Topshop is so interesting. So it is a kind of like watch your space. I do think, I don't know, I think it's a really kind of interesting thing because in terms of inspiration, more than ever through social media, people are inspired by their peers and street style and bloggers and stuff, like, and curated by their peers, by fashion information. But there will still always be like, I suppose, I personally think there'll still be a place for that really sort of highly conceptualised, really sort of like curated. Because I suppose what designers do that that benefits to our peers, you know, 27th century, is that the kind of the thinking behind the trends is so based on cultural references, you know, the real history. They kind of like they go really deep into that kind of like world to create these collections, and I think that really highly curated fashion is still kind of needed to sort of help drive some of the other kind of like sort of more high street trends, I suppose. Is that kind of answer? Any other questions?
Do you think there's a danger that you can democratise it too far, in the sense that, you know, if all you do is design stuff that people are telling people that they want, then fashion never progresses? So to some extent you're looking into your designers and your big brands to show you the way and bring you something new?
Yeah, I think it picks up on what I was trying to articulate across before. Absolutely. I think it's a really interesting like subject area, and it's something that we're really looking at in terms of peer-to-peer styling and community. And like I said, being a platform to share that information and inspire each other. But you know, the reality is, you know, people do seek advice and people want kind of like help in that world. So you do need that voice as like your coolest best friend. It's like look at life. Like if you're making a decision about, I don't know, what to wear, or you know, you might seek the advice of like your coolest best friend, and they're still really attainable and really approachable, but they are still that really like cool voice, and you know it. And therefore, I suppose it's that kind of like top tier person. Designers really represent what that is. It's just making sure it's really accessible to people. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, I do think there will always be. You do have to be really careful about how you democratise it, because people do kind of want help still and advice, and you know. So yeah, I think so.
ASOS has historically been quite at the forefront of digital tech, you know, digital innovation. What's the future now beyond, I guess, what you guys are doing at the moment?
In terms of the digital world, or just
I guess as a business and a brand, and how you're
we just want to take over the world. Yeah. That's basically it. It's like everything's that plan to take over the world. I mean, the thing is, we started as a digital company. That will always be like the core of who we are, and I think for us, social media is like the next big kind of area to really utilise and to sort of grow, and for us that's kind of like we see it like that platform is like a given that we should be the forefront of that kind of community and that kind of area. But you know, I think because we I suppose because we always sort of like, when we started, we knew that there was like, obviously it was us on the screen, but we knew that there was like a need for like, just like innovation and something that was just the high street. And I think that's the core of who we are, so we're always like seeking new avenues for that. So, you know, it's, yeah, I suppose like social media is the area that we will like really look at that sort of community and how we can help grow our communities and be like, support network in that area, but we will also always think about like what does that mean in different countries, and actually what are kind of like sidelines around that. So you know, we're sort of looking at projects about how we can be like an incubator for communities as well. And you know, we just did like a big piece at Fashion Week actually with my big idea, which is getting like together like really amazing creative women specifically who like made it in the world and talking about that. So we're trying always sort of think about how we can add like more sort of like hard ideas to their world in kind of accessible ways. But yeah, it basically will still be like core being digital and social. We are the next thing to talk about all the time. And also mobile, I should just say that as well. Like obviously it goes without saying, but in terms of a platform, we are all about mobile first. You know, it's kind of, I think if you are a digital brand and you're not thinking mobile first, then you're really missing something. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Zeba, for coming in.